This week, we're going to look at pro pool player Darren Appleton. He is a fantastic straight pool player, and I believe he has one of the best pre-shot routines out there. This game is actually going to begin with some safeties, so that's a first for the rack of the week. And this week, I'm going to comment as Darren Appleton runs the rack, but then we're going to rewind and go back to the early part of the rack and take a look at a concept that I'm calling open the top. Let's get into the rack. Welcome to this week's Rack of the Week. Darren's on a run here, and he has a low percentage break shot. What I would like to do, and what I most often do with this break shot, you can tell that the break ball is at or just a little below the bottom of the rack. I'm going to hit this with the center left English. The reason why is I'm going to hit this very, very firm, very hard. The reason why is the cue ball is going to pick up a little bit of spin, and it's going to want to kind of come away from the rail and then curve back. And that left English is helping you keep that angle sharp. If you hit it softly, that left English is going to grab, and it's probably going to go this way and miss the rack. But remember, when you hit it hard, the cue ball stays on that tangent line a lot longer, and it's going to kind of bend a little bit away from the rail, and then that left English and that bend is going to curve back down and hit this rack. I'm hoping to hit this corner ball or this ball full. If I hit this ball, the cue ball should carry him to the bottom rail. But I'm going to hit this really hard. That's how I shoot it, but I'm going to try it the way that Darren does it. And he's actually not successful with what he attempts. But I think it's a lot smarter. It's a much safer shot. And what he's trying to do is hit the top of the rack and bring the cue ball straight up to the center table. Now you can see he missed the rack. And he didn't exactly hit that softly, but he hit it with a little bit of force, much softer than my shot would have been. And again, he's trying to hit the top of the rack. The cue ball is going to kind of stall off the top of the rack and hopefully come this way. And he's just trying to knock 2 or 3 corner balls over this way to get a shot into this corner pocket. And then he's going to have he's going to look for an opportunity to re-break. So he's not trying to scatter the balls wide. That's a smarter play than mine would be. Mine's much more aggressive. So practice both, and then when it comes up in a game for you, see what you think. So this is interesting. This is the first time in Rack of the Week we're going to see some safeties. I finally found a way to work some safeties into this. So ask yourself, what would you do here? I think a real common shot that I often shoot is to shoot directly at this 7 ball. Try to hit it as full as you can. You need to miss the 10, because if you clip that 10 going in, you're going to open them and sell out. But if you can, and a lot of times I'll use a little bit of right English, so I just kind of have a very soft mini masse. I'm going to exaggerate, but right English, mini masse. So I'm coming right into that 7 and hitting it really full, and the cue ball just kind of buries in. Now I'm hitting this very soft. But when you hit that 7 ball full, you don't need much speed to knock this 13 ball to the rail. And it's even better if you can knock the 13 right up to here. In other words, halfway between each rail, because then you're reducing the area of the table that your opponent can play safe to and not sell out a shot in that 13. So that's the goal. That's what I would try to do. Darren, again, does something more intelligent, you might say, and he just accepts the fact that losing 1 point here is more valuable than trying to get a safety. So he's thinking about it. Here he goes. And he's just going to lag into the center of the bottom of the rack. Now you can shoot that exact same shot that he just did. You notice that he hit the 2 ball, and I'll shoot this quite often. If you hit the 2 ball full, this ball is going to get a rail, and the cue ball is going to stick right to the bottom of the rack. Now, the way that Darren hit it, if he hit it hard enough to do that, he didn't hit the 2 ball full. The cue ball would skitter out this way, and the balls would open up more, and he's likely to sell out a shot. So that's definitely a safety you need to practice. However, the trick to this safety, if you're going to shoot it my way, from here, you need to shoot with a touch of right English. And so you need to shoot the cue ball just barely misses the corner ball of the rack. I don't know if I can draw a straight line here. And then a touch of right English, and that straightens the cue ball out a little bit. You're either going to hit the 2 ball full, or you're going to hit the 14 very thin and then hit the 2-ball, and the cue ball will stick right there. Practice that one. I do it a lot, and it works very consistently for me. So the incoming player is Corey Deuel, and he shoots the only shot that's available. There's no way to get the cue ball above the rack. So your goal here is to get the cue ball frozen to the bottom of the center rail, if you can. You want it frozen because it limits your opponent's opportunities. They can't shoot at the bottom of the cue ball and draw it or anything like that. So it can make it hard to return. It's also very, very hard to do. As you see, Corey tried to get the cue ball frozen to the rail. Maybe he wanted it frozen to the rail down here. That would have been really good. It's a difficult shot, and frankly, if you hit the shot that Corey just shot as perfectly as you can, you still haven't left your opponent in a whole lot of danger. But it's the best you can do from that position. Now, Darren shoots a shot that I really like. He's simply thinning that pink ball and going up to the head rail. He made it look easy. How often do we shoot that shot and the cue ball bounces all halfway back down table or doesn't reach the head rail? So you've really got to practice that. But the reason why that was a good shot for Darren to shoot is because there was a gap between that pink ball and the ball next to it. You need to look at the rack, because if the balls are tight, even if you try and thin this ball, if the balls are tight, the ball on the other end of the row is going to pop out, and you're going to leave your opponent a shot. So you've got to look for those gaps in the rack and thin a ball that is not frozen to another ball, that has a gap. Then you're much less likely for a ball to leak out for your opponent. And the other thing you always need to do is look to see if there's a combination wired from above the rack. So you might not be able to shoot it from below the rack, but if you leave your opponent up table, it can you could leave it on for your opponents. You've got to check for that. Corey's in a tough spot, and that's the value of the type of safety that Darren just played. What Corey can't do is thin the 4-ball, which he would like to do, because, as I said, these bottom row is frozen, that 9 will pop out. So he's going to try to thin this 13. And that's actually an okay result. He didn't hit it. Had he hit it, it's likely he would have knocked the 9-ball this way, and nothing else would have come out from this side of the rack. The cue ball might have been where it is now or up here, and he wouldn't have sold out or anything. So that was a good attempt, and even though he failed to hit the 13, he only loses 1 point. In response, Darren does the smart thing, the traditional thing, and that is take an intentional foul back. And the reason is, and what Corey might do is take another intentional. They'll each take another intentional. But since your opponent takes the first intentional, then your opponent is the first one to be on 2 fouls. And so then they're at threat of fouling for a third time, which is going to be a loss of 15 points. So that's just good strategy. Go ahead and take an intentional foul behind your opponent. See what they do. You can always take a second one behind them. So Corey's going to try his shot again. And this is the danger from shooting off the rail. You just end up not hitting the ball as thinly as you think you could. Now, if Corey had hit that thin, not disturbed any balls, and sent the cue ball back up to the top of the head row, we would all be saying, oh, wow, what a great shot, Corey, good job. But there's a lot of risk in that shot, and you need to recognize it. One thing you might try to do is Corey might have tried to take a second intentional foul by legging the cue ball over to here, or to this rail right here. And the reason is Darren's going to probably take it a second intentional foul behind you and leg it back, but at least you're giving yourself a chance that Darren won't get the cue ball frozen to the head rail from this spot. And then you'll have an easier time for your safety. You only lose 1 point, and I think it's smart to do that. Maybe Darren will freeze the cue ball to the rail on his second attempt, and you're no worse off because you've both lost 1 point. But you're giving yourself a chance that you'll get a better view of the cue ball to shoot that safety. Okay, let's go on the offense because Darren's going to clear this table. Obviously, the only shot for him to shoot is this 5-ball. Now, I'll ask yourself, he's got a slight angle. Ask yourself, are you going to shoot this with low or high on the cue ball? And historically, I'm a person who loves to draw the cue ball. I favor draw over follow all the time, probably to my detriment. And historically, I very much love to draw this shot. It looks to me like I'm going to draw the cue ball into the 12, up into these balls, and then clear of that rack, and I'm going to push balls open, probably push balls open this way as well. That's what I see. Over the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, I've changed my tune. More often, I'm shooting this ball with follow. And if you shoot this with a hard center ball, center on the vertical axis, hard follow shot, remember the cue ball is going to deflect first before it curves forward. The cue ball is going to deflect probably into the bottom side of the 12, knocking balls this way. And then the cue ball is going to curve, and it's going to hit the 14, knocking balls this way. And then the cue ball is going to continue to the bottom and probably back up somewhere. But I think a follow stroke has a much better chance of opening, number one, opening these balls wider, and number two, getting the cue ball clear and no risk of a scratch. Let's take a look at what Darren does. That's the way I like to hit him. But I want you to look at the cue ball. Where was the cue ball going? It came off of those balls just as I predicted and headed right there for the side pocket. Now he didn't scratch, but I think you're at a bigger risk of scratching when you draw the ball on that type of a shot than going forward. And sometimes it looks like you're going to scratch if you go forward, but you're not. Just like the opening break shot, when we shoot with a high ball, the cue ball curves away from the scratch. Anyway, Darren Appleton hit that shot perfectly. So he got an excellent result. And he sees what I saw when he first shot this shot, which is little bit of rack analysis is very easy. The first thing to notice is that there's no two balls touching, and they're fairly well spread. So there's no trouble balls, no clusters. And what that should signal to you immediately is you want to try to run this rack without bumping any balls. It's possible. It's very possible to do that. The hardest ball to shoot without bumping another ball is the 15 or the 8. And it just so happens that one of those can be the break shot. Darren sees a possibility that I also saw, so I really like the fact that we were on the same page, and that is obviously his easiest shot to shoot right now is this 4, and all he has to do is get the cue ball past the 6, and he'll have a shot on this 13, and he can bump the 15 and just gently nudge it up here, and then he has an insurance ball on the 14 back this way. Or he could bump the 8 ball just a little bit, and then he'll have an insurance ball on the 3 and possibly on the 2. So I think that's, if you want to maneuver this rack in the most intelligent way, that's the type of thing you want to look for. And if you just noticed, Darren just looked. He looked at the angle he needs, where the cue ball needs to be to get past this 6 ball. So that's what he's going to shoot. So that's the only ball I would expect him to bump in this rack, because it's the only one you need to. And yeah, so he chose to bump the 15. Now he bumped the 15 in a smart way too. You don't want to just bump it and just hope for the best, or not have a plan, because you might, if you don't think about it, you might bump that 15 all the way over here onto the rail, and then it's a trouble ball. So really think about what you're doing. You want to think, okay, I only want to bump that 15 a few inches so it's clear to this pocket. So really intelligent straight pool going on here in the mind of Darren Appleton. And so once he's done that, obviously he's got a shot on the 14 ball. The 3 ball becomes the only trouble ball because it's a blocker ball for the 15, which is likely to be his key ball. It doesn't have to be. It could be his key ball or a K2. And you typically want to get rid of balls that are in this quadrant below your break ball. Get rid of them as early as you can. There's no good use for them. We're going to return to this spot in the rack once we get to the end and look at a different idea. But going from here, obviously, if you shoot the 14 ball, you're on the 12 ball. So this is kind of a climbing the ladder. You can shoot the 14, then the 12, then the 2, and then the 9, an alternating corner pockets climbing down. And at some point during that, you can go get the 3. This is what's on Darren's mind, and this is what I saw the first time that I watched this rack. So if you do that, you're eliminating these balls, and these are the balls that are left. And this looks really good because there are no balls on the rail, no trouble balls. You've got a break ball here. You might use the 6 as a break ball as well. You have balls above the break ball, which you can use for a key ball. This looks like an ideal situation, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does. So let's let Darren shoot a few balls. And he's checking the angle for the next ball. He might be going to the 2 here instead of the 12. I'm not sure. Yeah, he's going to the 2 instead of the 12. No big deal. But he's going to choose a pattern to clear these balls. He's probably going to go 2, 9, 3, and then 12. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. Now, I'm going to ask you, what's your end pattern? Because once these end balls are cleared, how are you going to get on your break shot? Now, based on this angle, I'm going to anticipate that Darren's going to go this way for the 12. Yeah, that's a real common shot. Very, very predictable, even though the cue ball's traveling a long distance, and he's got insurance balls if he doesn't get there. But anyway, I'm going to ask you right now, what's your end pattern? The reason why I ask is because this has come up a lot, and at least I've paid attention to it a lot. I'll be in a similar situation, which is I clear the lower balls and the rail balls. I've got 3, 4, 5 balls above my break ball, but it seems like I have too many balls. Let me consider this. Let's consider that the 10, the 6, and the 7 were already gone. What's your end pattern now? Well, now it's obvious. You just shoot the 12, shoot this ball on the side, and roll forward, and you've got the 15 as a key ball. Every straight pool in the world, player in the world would do that. Okay? But we've got 5 balls. It's like we have extra balls, but we still have a pattern because look what we could do. We could kind of climb up the ladder. That is, we could shoot the 12 and then roll forward, and then we're on the 6 in the side, which gets us on the 7, which gets us on the 10. And from the 10, it's easy to draw over here, and the 15 is your key ball. So this isn't that bad. This is a really good situation, except I've got an extra ball. What am I going to do with this ball? So think about that while we watch Darren shoot. So he's on either of these balls that he chooses. He can shoot the 6 or this, I don't know, is that the 12 or these strange colored balls? I don't know which one that is. But anyway, he could shoot either one of those. So what would you do? What are you going to do here? And Darren isn't sure what to do either. Look how much time he's taking looking at these balls. This is the second time he's walked over here. What is the pattern to run these with minimal cue ball movement? And the pattern that Darren finally shoots them does not involve minimal cue ball movement because he just played for position on the 10. He looked at the angle on that 10, and he's actually going to go send the cue ball to the head rail and down for the 15. And, of course, he gets out and he makes the 8-ball break shot. But is this the best pattern? Is this the pattern with 100% positional route? I'm going to say no. He gets there because he's just a champion player, and he's going to get the cue ball where he needs it. But this is not ideal. So now he has a shot on the 15 or the 6. There's no end pattern in mind. He's working it out as he goes, which is not ideal. But as I said, he's going to get there. So from this point, he's going to shoot the 6 and draw the cue ball over because you get the cue ball over here, then you can shoot the 7 and bring the cue ball here for the 15. So now he has that route that I talked about. And there was several different ways that we talked about getting to the 15 as the key ball. But even this route, this shot that he's shooting right now, isn't the best. He did something really wise, and that is he needed an angle on this 7, but it would have been easy for the cue ball to end up here, right on top of the 8, and then you got real big troubles. So I guarantee you, Darren did that on purpose. He made sure that he didn't get tree-topped over that 8. Because he did that, he had to do something really fancy. That was a really nice shot. That was a very smooth draw stroke. If you watch that, cue ball curved to get to the rail without scratching and then to get on his key ball. So Darren's going to shoot this break shot. Let's watch him shoot the break shot, and then we're going to go back to that point and take a look again. So Darren has a flat angle. What I mean is he's not inside or outside. He's pretty much right on a parallel line to the rail. But take a look at it again, because when you're pocketing this ball, the ghost ball is here. So the line that he's shooting on is actually this way. So it actually is an inside angle. Can be a little bit deceptive. So one would think that you'd shoot this with a high ball then, expecting the cue ball to hit the 2 or the 4 and then curve to the bottom rail. I believe that that's what I would choose in this situation. Darren favors the draw shot, which I'm a fan of. Watch the cue ball. Oh, that wasn't a hard draw shot. That was a smooth draw shot, just like his K2 ball when he got a nice curving action on the cue ball to help control it. A spectacular shot. Okay, let's go back and take a look, because there's a really important lesson here that I've picked up on recently. And I've seen both John Schmidt and Thorsten Hohmann do this. I mentioned that it's very, very natural from this spot to shoot the lower balls and eliminate the low balls, and then you've got no trouble balls whatsoever, and all your balls are above the rack. I'm now of the opinion that that is a mistake. The reason why is we had too many balls. When Darren got to that point where the lower balls were gone, he had problems. There was too many balls. There was balls in the way of a good end pattern. And so what I would see would be to shoot the 14 and play position for the 12. The 12 is kind of sort of the break ball's brother. It's kind of near to it. You can't shoot that ball in this corner pocket. You can only go to this side or this corner pocket. That makes it kind of a problem ball, and it's a very unnecessary ball for your end pattern. And that's whether you're going to use the 15 ball as a key ball or the 10 or the 7 as a key ball. And by the way, while you're thinking these things, you need to recognize that the second best, or perhaps the best key ball in this rack is the 9 ball. So it is not a bad pattern to shoot all 4 of these balls. Use the 9, use the 3 maybe, or shoot these balls in a pattern. You might shoot these upper balls, then go 14, 3, 12, 2, 9, and end up on the 9 to go 2 rails like this for your break ball. That's a very, very good pattern. The alternative would be, if you want to stick with using the 15 ball in your end pattern, the alternative is to shoot the 14, then the 12, and perhaps you get an angle so that you can come down here, or whatever this stripe ball is, and then shoot this ball, which I think is the 12. You're eliminating one ball from the upper end. And remember what I said, if you shoot this pattern, so we'll go 14, stripe, 12, 2, 3, or 3, 2, then you're using the 9 to just whoop, come right up here. Really easy and predictable. Then you can go 6, 7, 10, and then you're on your 15. So I've drawn a lot of lines, and I've involved every single ball on the table, but I hope that makes sense. By eliminating this one ball, you've improved your end pattern dramatically, and you have increased the difficulty of running out by not at all, by none. In fact, you've probably made it easier. You could also eliminate the 6. Then when you're playing your balls below the table, in other words, you could go 14, 6, 12, or 14, 12, 6. I'm calling this the 12. I don't know what ball it is. You could eliminate these 3 balls, then shoot your lower balls, and then you can come over to this zone and go 7, 10, 15, or 15, 7, 10. That's something to think about. I'm going to call that opening the top of the rack. This is when you have the balls open and there's no trouble balls. You've got balls below your break ball. You have balls above your break ball. The lesson is this. Take a look at what your end pattern might possibly be. You don't have to choose it yet, but just take a look at it and decide, do you have too many balls? Do you need to open the top of the rack before you come back down and get the bottom of the rack? Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next Rack of the Week.